All right, welcome back, everyone, to the Dispatch. So excited to have Aaron Lamberg here to talk about our expansion activities. Aaron, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me. I'm really excited to be here to share all of the cool new things that we're doing within the walls of Pierce.
Yeah, and when you talk about Walls of Pierce, not just here in Appleton, Wisconsin, but also in Bradenton, Florida, and Murfreesboro as well. A lot of activity going on.
We have things going on in all of our facilities right now to help us increase our capacity and really drive some of those improvements that we need to get these trucks out to the firehouses faster.
That's awesome. Well, if you don't mind, I'd like to start in Appleton. To kind of quiz you or grill you a little bit here on different activities that are taking place to get to firehouses, their fire trucks sooner. So why don't we talk a little bit on some of the investments that have taken place so far in Appleton?
Yeah, across all of Pierce, we've added about 500,000 square feet of manufacturing space. That's really going to help us expand our operations. You'll hear us say lift, shift, and stretch. Really focus on breaking down the work content for our team members, making line side presentation of materials cleaner, more efficient for us to be able to move about our workspaces without much disruption. You know, we start at IPP at the beginning of the process. We've invested heavily in fabrication with some cutting edge technology in our lasers. So we have our fiber laser, our Cut Light Penta 30 kilowatt fiber laser. That's got a bevel head on it. That's going to allow us to skip some operations where we normally do secondary machining and get those parts right into the welding operations. Extremely simple machine for us and very robust. So we'll should have reduced downtime with that. We can cut a wide range of materials that are present on our trucks. You know, the complexity of our trucks really brings everything from stainless steel, aluminum, mild steel, and all different thicknesses. We need that capability to cut those types of materials fast.
So for our listeners that haven't been to our Appleton campuses, IPP, can you tell me what that means?
IPP is our industrial park plant. That is over towards the Greenville area on the north side of Appleton. That's our first operation facility. That's where we're going to be doing the majority of our fabrication, our laser cutting, fabrication, machining, and welding operations. We also do a little bit of painting and some assembly there.
So I'm regularly reminded by the team members at IPP that they actually build fire trucks, and over here at ASY, we just put them together. Have you heard the same feedback?
There may be a little bit of a comparison or differentiation in how they view the work that they do, but really that's the start of the process. Yeah. And that's where you'll see a lot of the sparks flying in our
metal
processes.
Grinding and the old school manufacturing, right?
Yeah, you'll see some new school brought to that old school with the technology that we're bringing in, which is really positive. The team members are embracing it. On top of that new laser, we've brought in some new forming machines. So after we cut our parts, a lot of them have to be bent, and we've traditionally bent them with some newer age technology and CNC press brakes. But we've taken that to another level. So we've integrated a Schroeder panel bender into our operation, and that's where really the tools form around the part to allow us to be more efficient on our larger panels. So if you think about like catwalks and some of our hatch compartment areas, those are very big pieces of material that we would have to try to bend accurately with 2+ people holding those parts to a machine. Now we can lay that on a flat surface. The machine holds that part and allows it to get accurate bend lines so that we can do it right the first time and get it quicker into our weld base.
So what does that mean then for the end user? How does that benefit the firefighter?
So the new forming technology that we're bringing in is going to benefit the firefighter through increasing our capacity, getting parts into our weld cells, and improving our quality. So we won't have to rely on our team members dealing with long pieces of material and trying to work through flexing that into a machine. They're able to lay that on the flat table and get it to form appropriately. So it's right the first time and every time after that.
Yeah, now, Aaron, I know we jumped right into it, but speaking of IPP, I understand you started your career at Pierce there in Department 12, is that right?
I did. I started my career actually as a temp worker, as a student welder. I was an apprentice there, learning how to weld until I completed my associate's degree in industrial welding technology, and then grew from there to the director of operations now.
That's awesome. That's a great story. And I don't know if you've noticed over there too, they've also expanded that apprentice program, right?
We do. We do have a youth apprentice program that employs high school students as welders. We employ about 10 students a year. Typically, it's 5 juniors and 5 seniors that we try to target. And we convert about between 50 and 75% of those seniors graduating to become welders for Pierce Manufacturing. So previously there was a program that we had with local trade schools that would get people's foot in the door. And now we've gone into the youth apprentice program that's sponsored by our local CISA 6 program, our education program here in Wisconsin, that gets those people started earlier and helping them find a career that they love.
That's awesome. I mean, I know our customers love that when they're going through tours and hearing that story and how they're getting new talent into those positions and experienced talent and building that right in here at Pierce is wonderful. So let's move over here to the ASY building. Why don't you tell me what's all taking place here at the assembly plant?
If you haven't been to the assembly plant in the last year, you're not going to really know where to go. So we've transitioned a lot of our operations throughout the factory. Our west side of the factory used to be some of our MRL operations, our light tunnel. We also had our warehouse located over there. A lot of those operations have moved across the plant and out of the plant. So we've moved a lot of our warehousing to our HFL building where we've centralized that activity. So we reduced down a fair number of the high bay racks that you'll see in our facilities and have one picking location for all of those materials. We also moved our light tunnel into a more centrally located place in the factory. And we took that space that was once occupied by the light tunnel and our MRL line, and we made that into an additional paint capacity facility.
Sure.
So we have one new paint booth, 2 new ovens in there with a robotic buffing cell to help us paint and process our parts. Additionally, we recently just accomplished the move of our mod line into the new HFL building. We're in the middle of that. We started the move last Thursday, and we're working through that. So we're freeing up those lines. And what we're doing with the lines when we move them is we're stretching them out, reducing that work content and station, opening up valuable line side space for the parts to be presented to the people, to reduce the amount of time that they're spending trying to find their parts and really make them more efficient.
That's awesome. There's some technology additions as well, right, at the Appleton campuses?
For sure. Our South Paint facility, we implemented painting robots a few years ago that really focus on our cab paint process. We've also added in our gray matter robotics cells. Gray matter robotics is an automation company that couples AI with the physical automation to be able to adapt to our complexity that we have. So the variation in our cabs and our bodies, it uses a camera system that then takes that through an AI bot to be able to create a robot program for all the different shapes and sizes of our cabs and bodies. So we've adapted that. We started with primer sanding. So when the cab would come out of our prime cell, we used to have individuals sanding those cabs down for us. We got that into an automated setup. Mm-hmm. We took that technology and all the learning that we did there with gray matter, and we applied that to a metal finishing cell. So now the initial sand scuff, the initial DA sand that we need to have before we send it into prime, we do that with the automation, and we've even taken it as far as sanding our Bondo down. So we're able to apply the filler material, the mud we call it, and the robot picks up the spots of that mud, and it'll actually sand that down to a flat surface. So we're starting to address some of the labor shortages that we have, mm-hmm. especially in paint in some of these high skilled areas with technology. And really that's helping us reallocate those people into other areas of the business where we need them.
Yeah. So what would you say to someone if they said, boy, you're adding all these robots in here and it's you're no longer bringing in all these talented folks. Where are robotics fitting compared to where you're bringing human talent?
So our automation strategy largely has been focusing on the areas that are dirty, dangerous, or people don't want to do. Call it the 3Ds. It's very basic, and there's just certain jobs that it's getting harder and harder to find people to do. Whether it's a trade that may not be as appealing to the new generation, or if there's some level of craftsmanship that we can start gaining with the advancements in technologies and cameras. That technology is growing every quarter. So we can get upgrades on those cameras every 3 months, 4 months. You could theoretically get a new camera for these robots to continue to get more finite in the ability to detect variations in the surface, which is it's a little nerdy, but it's pretty impressive what they've gotten to. So we're able to take these robots, especially with our Bondo cell, and the the final evaluation of the ability of that robot is being done by the craftspeople that have been doing that job. And largely we're turning those individuals into, some of them into robot operators. So we're upskilling them to be able to allow them to be involved in that process still, but reduce the amount of wear and tear on their body. One of our team members that was involved in the buffing cell, she was largely the Pierce delegate to help us set up this cell. She expressed that, after her first couple days of running the cell, it was some of the first days she didn't have to take Tylenol when she went home. So that's part of that focus on automating where people are at risk ergonomically, where they're at risk, for musculoskeletal issues, all those items that could plague us and really impact the availability of our skilled workforce.
Well, and obviously, you want people not only to go home safe every day, but also just enjoy a long, healthy retirement. And I know, in those situations, that team member in particular, she's awfully proud of the work that she's doing on that buffing robot and being those set of eyes between our customer and their equipment. And just that she can extend her career here. She gets 28 years or something in paint, right?
Very tenured employee. Right now, we have a similar scenario going on down with our paint spraying robots too. One of our programmers, he writes all of the programs. I think we have 3,000 or 4,000 different programs for spraying our cabs, and he was a painter that we sent to some training and continued training for him. To do all of that offline, and he's continuing to work on later into his years to be able to support our operation with the knowledge that he has. He understands Pierce paint, and helping us apply that knowledge into automation is going to take us to the next level.
You mentioned HFL a couple of times there, so tell me more about that. What's going on at this HFL place? What does it stand for, and what are they doing?
Yeah, HFL, it's an acronym for high flow line. That is some of the new vision and new technique that we're using to apply to fire truck manufacturing. HFL right now is about 225,000 square feet, a little bit less, but about 224, 225 that we're starting to set up in a linear process with some paced work and really focusing on standardizing how we customize. So taking the highly customized trucks and being able to find the commonality between them and be able to apply that into work center breakdown. So every work center has a job to do, and the people in that work center know specifically those jobs to do. And we apply their tools and their materials as close as possible to them so they can do it efficiently and have the ability to raise any issues that they may have with that assembly. So it really starts creating that cadence and that pace within our factories.
So you mentioned that buffing and the woman that's operating the buffing equipment. So what's her background in? What makes her the person to do that work?
Yeah, that individual has been here for 28 years. She started as a painter and progressed through the paint shop in all sorts of roles, from metal finishing, painting, to buffing, that final step where you're going to see every single blemish in that paint. And she's developed into the subject matter expert, and she's the final judge of quality on those doors before they go out to be installed to a truck. So our tenured employees that know our processes are becoming that quality gate check and that set of eyes, those qualified eyes that we need to be able to tell us whether our automation is performing at the Pierce level or if we need to do some more fine tuning with that.
I mean, that's just incredible to think of all of that expansion that's taking place here at our Appleton campuses. And I really think when we look back at this time in history, I mean, certainly it's difficult as we're going through it. I know our customers are absolutely demanding fire trucks faster. But I think when we look back at this period in Pierce's history, it's going to be looked at like the industrial fire truck revolution of when all of these investments are taking place and all of this activity will make us a stronger company than ever. But yeah, I know it doesn't end here. It doesn't end in Appleton. So tell me a little bit about our facilities in Bradenton, Florida, and what's going on there.
Yeah, we're expanding in Bradenton, Florida, 185,000 square feet coming into play there, which is largely going to support some warehousing activities as well as FPE and graphics operations, which ultimately is going to pave the way for additional manufacturing space within the original footprint.
And I know that we've added like a total of 800 new employees over the last 3 or so years across all the campuses. How many of those have we added in Bradenton?
150 people in our team in Bradenton, Florida, which is much needed down there to help add to the increase in our production. taking on some additional, enforcer work along with the saber work down there.
So tell me a little bit more then about those shared technologies across the different locations.
Our manufacturing team really focuses on replication. We really like to look at the technologies that we're implementing and perfecting in different areas of our operation and replicate those in different facilities so that we do not have to reinvent the wheel every time that we want to see a capacity increase. So Florida, we've recently implemented a robotic welding system that's helping us increase our capacity there. We've also implemented a panel bender down there similar to what we have here in Appleton, Wisconsin, that's supporting our bending operations and really improving the ergonomics and the capacity of our fab shop. Furthermore, we're looking at opportunities to replicate our robotics, our automation, some of our AI tools down in all of our operations.
That's neat that you say that. I think of other areas also that we're sharing the replication and particularly sharing experiences learned by different team members, because there's a lot of that too from McNeilis that's applied to the high flow line concept. And then you have the example of Appleton and Bradenton campuses, and then also Murfreesboro, because there's a lot of shared technologies between the Murfreesboro, Tennessee as well. Not all of our customers and listeners, I think, know that we're even in Tennessee. So can you tell me a little bit about our Murfreesboro campus, square footage, how many team members we have?
Murfreesboro is a great location just south of Nashville, Tennessee, about a 40-minute ride from the airport. Very large facility. We have close to 900,000 square feet there shared vocationally. About 100,000 square feet of that is dedicated to Pierce operations. Down there, we have fabrication, machining. We have welding of our cabs, the ARF cab, the enforcer cab. We also have a newly set up frame up operation down there. So we've taken a portion of our frame up operation in Appleton and moved it down there to help support our team in Florida. So frames get built in Tennessee, they get shipped down to Florida, making some efficiencies there and allowing us some additional capacity in Appleton. Additionally, we've set up some painting operations to allow us to complete the job color frames as they head down to Florida. And we're also looking at expanding that paint capability there as we learn through it.
Yeah, I saw some photos of our team wrapping up their first 90 red frame down there. So that was a big deal for them. I think they celebrated with some 90 red beer from Lion's Tail here in Neenah. And then I also saw that they made their first Tennessee frame. So the frame is for a Tennessee customer. And so just how excited for the team members there to get to do that and to get to build that culture up of who they serve. And it's just obviously frame rails. You think of how much rides on those and how important that work is to our firefighters.
And that speaks loudly to the connection our team members, whether we're in Florida, Tennessee, or in the state of Wisconsin, the connection to those customers, how that drives all the way through our product.
Yeah, it's super important. Well, Aaron, I can't thank you enough for taking some time to talk through this with us. I'm very confident we're going to invite you back to ask you more questions as you continue making progress. Because I know it's not just about getting these technologies and putting them in. It's how are we using them? How are they, impacting our customers? And I know that's just ever changing. So thanks so much for the work you're doing. It's super important to our customers.
I appreciate you having me, and I'm really excited to come back sometime.